Okay, here's another magnificent sunset I'm going to share with you while I talk to you a little bit about Daniel chapter 7. The one like the Son of Man coming in the clouds of glory. There's a fascinating article by John J. Collins in the Journal of Biblical Literature. And he talks about the Son of Man and the saints of the Most High in the book of Daniel. And thanks to Ron Barron for helping me acquire this source along with several other sources that I've got. Collins is one of the serious Dead Sea Scrolls and biblical scholars. He is very, very good writer. He's talking about Daniel chapter 7, of course, which is the famous apocalyptic chapter in Daniel chapter 7, in Daniel. And he talks about how the one coming like the Son of Man is associated with the holy ones of the Most High. He goes through the various scholarly collections of articles showing different scholars saying the one like the Son of Man, is it a collective for all of Israel, or is it an individual? As the collective, the holy ones of the Most High are invariably identified with the faithful Jews at the time of the Maccabean revolt, he says. He says that on page 50. But he has some very interesting things to say on the one coming like the Son of Man as an individual, and he ultimately equates it, well, he discusses the idea of it being Israel itself, which is a legitimate communication. He can be a pictorial symbol of the people of Israel, and not an individual figure, nor a Messiah of any kind. And others, of course, disagree with that assessment. He's quoting Malwinkle, "He that cometh." And, of course, he disagrees with Malwinkle eventually, but the holy ones are designated in the literatures of the canonical scriptures as well as the non-canonical scriptures. The holy ones are usually equated with the angels. Then there's other studies that show that, of course, angels are always depicted as men. And so angels are just a little lower than the gods, according to some scholarly interpretations as well as the scriptures. But he says on page 53, the holy ones of the Most High refer to angelic beings. And he says the kingdom is given to the angelic hosts under their leader. And that leader is Michael the Archangel, which is extremely interesting here. And he talks about various aspects of the various visions in parallel with the visions of the Son of Man in the book of Enoch, which I thought was extremely interesting because of Andrei Orlov's work on the Enoch narratives also, as well as Margaret Barker's and several hosts of others. And he talks about this battle in heaven. And he says the battle in heaven reflects the earthly battles of Israel, so that the two coincide on earth as it is in heaven, which I thought was an extremely stunning part of his article here. He says Yahweh will punish the hosts of heaven in battle and the kings on earth as well. And when Israel went out to battle on earth, Yahweh also marched out of with his heavenly armies, and the victory was really achieved by the heavenly, not the earthly forces in the ancient times. So these are the two different dimensions of the same battle, and I thought that was a fascinating insight into this. And he talks about Yahweh's host. Now this is interesting, the host, the heavenly warrior theme, again, the god of the storm, the god of the sky, so on and so forth. Well, that's Yahweh. He talks about the phrase, the Al-Kol El, in Daniel 11:36. It has some significance because the phrase is grouped here with the El Elim, or Yahweh. It refers to Yahweh's angelic hosts, he says. In fact, the Elim is a common synonym for angels, especially in the Qumran scrolls of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So Yadin, Yigal Yadin, translates the El Elim as the God of angels in the 1QM. And this is supported, of course, by the parallelism of Yahweh Sabaoth in the Bible and the expression Lord of Spirits in the similitudes of Enoch. He says, of course, the stars in heaven are also the hosts of God. They are identified with the angelic host in the Israelite traditions, of course, we knew that. The identification is explicit in Daniel 8:10. And in 1 Enoch 1:04, the righteous are promised that they will shine as the stars of heaven, and that they will become companions to the hosts of heaven in verse 6. Then he's discussing the similitudes of Enoch, and he talks about the vision in Daniel chapter 8. And I wanted to get to this, as the idea is the intimate relationship between the stars to the angels in the biblical world. The parallelism of the stars here with the hosts of heaven makes quite explicit that supernatural heavenly angelic beings are referred to. It appears again in Daniel 11. And there's a precise parallel to Daniel 11:36, where he has elevated himself al kolel, among all the hosts of heaven. He discusses further this idea that the hosts of Israel on earth have become united. They can be united with the heavenly hosts. The earthly realm and his activities are associated also with the activities of the fighting hosts of heaven. So that there's a two-prong point of the battles of the God of hosts and Israel's army on earth. And this is made explicit, of course, in the Dead Sea Scrolls as well. See, Israel has assumed, the assumption in Daniel 8:24-25 is that Israel has merged with the heavenly host, even as in the case of the Qumran War Scroll. And I thought that was interesting. They had the angels among them, and they fought with them tooth and nail. The Kedoshim, the term the Kedoshim, is the reference to the heavenly host in both the Dead Sea Scrolls as well as to the biblical record. And I think that's fascinating also. There's so much going on with the literatures and the visions in Daniel and Enoch. And then, of course, the Son of Man sayings of Jesus in the New Testament is also really interesting. But the human figures in Daniel points to an angelic identity, according to Collins on page 61 here. I also think it's really interesting how he describes Michael as being the Prince of Israel. He says, compare Michael, your prince, in Daniel 10, verse 21. So Israel is the people of the holy ones, of course. That's how Daniel depicts all of this. And they can't be distinguished from their heavenly patrons at all. In either case, the peoples share in the kingdom of the angels here, according to the vision in Daniel chapter 7. It's a merely spelling out of the human dimensions of the more complete reality mentioned in the vision in verse 22 and the interpretation in verse 18 of the heavenly hosts tying in with the earthly hosts in their battles. The idea is Michael has dominion to raise up among the angels and the dominion of Israel among all flesh. He says that on page 63. So if we take at all seriously the heavenly framework of the narrative in Daniel chapters 10 through 12, we must conclude that the battle, which was fought on two levels, also had an issue on two levels. And I thought that was interesting. This is the fellowship of the angels with the humans. And the Son of Man, of course, he says, is Michael. And his role in the War Scroll, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, is where he is accompanied by an angelic host, as well as in the New Testament, in Revelation chapter 12. It is precisely Michael's dominion over the angels which makes possible Israel's rule on earth. And I thought that was extremely interesting. So the one like the Son of Man, he equates with Michael the Archangel. I thought that was interesting. And of course, in Matthew 16:27, the Son of Man will come in the glory of his Father with his angels. And in Mark 8:38, he will come in the glory of his Father with his holy angels. In Matthew 13:41, the Son of Man will send his angels. And this shows that he has authority over the host. So this is very interesting that a heavenly angelic Savior figure, which we can find in a number of other Jewish intertestamental works, is also included in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. Melchizedek in the Dead Sea Scrolls appears as just such a figure as well. So we have a lot of interesting tie-ins. The parallelism with Daniel chapter 7, when it applies Psalm 82, 10 through 11, as applied to Melchizedek, is extremely interesting. He's the heavenly one, stands in the congregation of God. Among the heavenly ones, he judges. So Melchizedek is exalted, Christ is exalted in the New Testament, Enoch in the Old Testament, and Daniel has this vision of all these types of angelic messengers, and in the New Testament, the angelic Christology of Christ is shown.